Hey guys, it's Byron here and welcome to Byron's Reviews. Today we are going to be talking about Gameground on the Sega Mega Drive or the Sega Genesis. And Gameground is an action strategy game that has elements of being a shooter in it too. And it's a game that I'm quite nostalgic for because I got this game when I was quite young on this Sega Mega Drive plug and play we were given. But it only had one controller, so I didn't really get to experience all this game had to offer because it has some pretty darn cool multiplayer elements that I'm going to get into in a bit. But before I start talking really in depth about this game, I do need to say that I haven't beaten it. I've only got to round 3 stage 4 because apparently I suck at video games, but take that into account. So when you start playing Gameground, you have 3 playable characters, and the levels in Gameground can be seen from an overhead view. And there are multiple ways you can progress to the next stage on Gameground. One is by taking all of your 3 characters one by one to the exit, or by defeating all the enemies on screen. And I think this is really cool because it introduces a really good element of risk versus reward, because if you just kill all the enemies, you get more points and it saves time, but that can risk getting killed sometimes, so it's sometimes better to just go to the exit. And about the characters, they all have the different abilities. For example, some have things where they can shoot in all directions, some have weapons where they can fire ahead of you, but then also other characters have attacks where you can throw bombs or spears over ledges and stuff to get enemies at higher places. And each character has 2 different attacks, and you really do have to think about which characters are best to be used in which situations. And the characters also vary in how fast they move, so it really is a strategic game in that sense, and you do have to think about it. Another cool thing about these characters is when they get shot and it only takes really one attack to one of your characters to kill them, they turn into a little symbol for that character that's left on the stage, and then with another character on your team you can send them into the level, pick up that symbol of the character and take them to the exit, and then they're back on your team again. And there'll be lots more of these symbols of characters on stages as you go through the game, not just characters that you've played as that have died. And this way you can gather more and more people on your team to use during the game, which is really fun. But also you do have to think about what you're doing a lot of the time, because if you kill all the enemies, the stage ends, and if there are characters you've left behind on the stage, they're gone, they're off your team. And there are a lot of different characters to play as in this game, 20 in total I think, but that's not the only aspect of the game that has a lot of variety, because there are plenty of enemies. The rounds look graphically different from round to round, which mixes it up a bit. And then just with the level design, there are lots of different things that make it new and fresh and you never get bored, or at least I don't. Also, personally, I really love the music in this game, especially the music on round 1. I think it is just really memorable and enjoyable, and it really puts you into this adventurous, epic feel of the game. And while I do think some of the other songs in the game, other than the round 1 music, aren't quite as good, I think the soundtrack in general is very solid. So earlier on I mentioned that this game was also a multiplayer game, and it is. It can not only be played by 1 person, but also 2, and when you play with 2 players, it's a co-op game, and a great co-op game it is, because not only do both of you get to play at the same time and have a great game, but communication is key, and for a co-op game when you're working together, that's really important. For example, if there's a character left on the stage, you'll have to talk to each other about who's going to get it, and you'd want to try and help each other so you can both carry on playing the game. And I think the communication aspect of this game just makes the co-op element really, really strong, and it's a fantastic multiplayer game because of that. So I could go on talking about the positives of this game for ages. It has a good length, I think 5 rounds, each round consisting of like 10 levels or something like that. I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's right. And yeah, it's just a great game that I really love. But it's not perfect, and the first thing I'd like to criticise about the game is the fact that some enemies take multiple hits to kill, and that in itself isn't bad, but when you shoot them, they still have the same death animation, even though they don't die, because they take multiple hits. So with the death animation will play, you think they're dead, and then they'll carry on shooting and coming after you, which can cause a few cheap deaths every now and then. And also, while this isn't exclusive to Gainground and lots of other games do this, I do think that the time limit is pretty cheap, because when the time runs out, the stage ends, and if you've got a character, at least one character to the exit, you'll move on to the next stage. But all your other characters that you haven't got to the exit are dead. And I think that's really cheap, because this game really does, in most of its elements, encourage strategic thinking. It encourages you to go, which character with its different like abilities and like attacks would be best to use in this situation. So that may take a bit of time to think of, and the fact that there's a time limit kind of detracts from the strategic nature of the game a bit, and I think it's just a cheap way of making the game more difficult. And then the hit detection can sometimes be a tiny bit off, especially with shooting enemies that are on ledges, because it has to be pretty precise. But all these negatives I have mentioned about the game are very minor, and they're ones that you can get used to the more you play it. So they're not anything that are like deal breakers, because as I've said, you can adapt to them, and if you play the game long enough, it's something you'll just stop thinking about after a while. So in general, I think that Gainground is a phenomenal game, and it's one of my personal favourite games on the Mega Drive. While it is a moderately well-known game, I think that it should be talked about a lot more, because I really do love it. And after the Sonic the Hedgehog games on the Mega Drive, it may even be my favourite after them. So I would recommend Gainground to any fans of the action or strategy genre, and to fans of those genres who not only just want a great single player game, but a great co-op game to play with friends. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you thought of it, and Gainground if you've played it, in the comments below, and I'd love to have a nice chat with you. But until next time, I will see you later. Bye!